Good morning and or good afternoon to everybody. Welcome to the PYRESWAP show. We are going to be updating our little intro logo here, but I want to thank you guys for joining me on this fantastic Sunday. I guess today I can keep going over what we went over on Friday, or if you guys would like, we can do another demonstration of the incantation witch vault. If you would like to see a demonstration of active staking during this particular show, please say so in general chat. And can I get an audibility check from people, both in general chat as well as other places? Fantastic. Okay. Fantastic. All right. So, anyways, we're completely aware of the epoch transpiration getting hung up on Avalanche. The main reason for that has to do with a pair known as BTC.B against wrapped Ethereum.E, and this is again, like, these are Bitcoin bridged directly to Avalanche, and then Ethereum, I think, bridged directly to Avalanche. And this pair right here, because the I guess we could say the economic galaxy of Web3, these two coins make up so much of that mass that they kind of rally in unison. So, like, they don't ever end up diverging too frequently from each other, and that makes them the one of the more low volume pairs. We have this pair kind of like as a pass-through, because on every single chain we use the gas coin, whether that's Phantom, BNB, or Avalanche, and we pair them all against Bitcoin and Ethereum. But generally speaking, Avalanche, due to the fact that probably it's the highest gas cost chain in our ecosystem, it has the biggest resistance to catching arbitrage volume. But this does go away when liquidity gets deeper. So, first of all, does anyone have any questions before I get into anything else? All right, fantastic. So, I think on Friday we were talking about hard times tokens, paper railroads, wildcat banking. We can also kind of like go into the construction of actually, I think today we can talk about one instrument versus two instrument banking. So when, I feel like I'm going to split this in half here. So when Bitcoin was first invented, and it was sort of described as like a peer-to-peer, like electronic payment system with its own currency, I don't really know if this was considered to be like a complementary currency to the dollar. I don't really think it was, because the dollar was not really on the chain. I mean, they put Tether on the Bitcoin chain later on, but generally speaking, I think that when Satoshi Nakamoto invented this one instrument system, he was kind of designing it from the era of finance that he was born into, which is, again, arguably modern finance. Now, modern finance has been a one instrument system since which date? Do you guys remember? 1971. In theory. Really though, it's been longer than 1971, because while the central bank, the Federal Reserve of the United States, was meant to have dollars that were arguably dollars that were backed by gold, they were not. And the fact of the matter is that they still had kind of created the idea of a monetary supply, but they ended up with a single instrument and just balancing it through its own scarcity. Now, without that, banking has never been a single instrument system. It has never been that. In fact, literally the entire idea of banking is splitting money up into multiple instruments. Like, so the entire idea of banking is the creation of the second instrument. So what I mean by that is fiat, it's like $1 equals $1. Does that make sense? So the whole creation of banking is not being like self-recursive like this is, or self-referential, but rather that you have like collateral and the whole concept of this is that you have gold, right? You have the idea of gold, and to learn about why precious metals became our form of currency, it had to do with the fact that it was durable, meaning it wasn't going to decay like an agricultural commodity. It was valuable in small components, and it was still light enough to transport. Does that make sense? For it to kind of fulfill the role of money, gold and silver, they were basically the only two elements that could fulfill this role. So therefore, it was like only natural. They didn't really build the furnaces for other metals that are considered precious until way later in with the evolution of technology. So yeah, gold and silver historically have become money in multiple different areas, kind of because like it just makes sense to the human mind. Like, this is something that's small, I can store it, but it's also durable, meaning like it's not going to decay. And yeah. Anyways, yeah, it's also valuable in small weights. So again, like an ounce of coffee is not nearly the same economic value of an ounce of gold. So when we talk about one instrument banking, it's almost like you're completely like lost sight on like what value is. And this single instrument banking, what you end up doing is you have to create this underlying instrument through which the dollar has value. So the Federal Reserve does this through the economy itself. So like the dollar's value for buying things like electricity or coffee or gold or the internet or clothes or cameras, this is arguably the collateral behind the dollar. Instead of the bank holding collateral, it's just a whole bunch of different merchants holding collateral, and everybody's kind of willing to expose themselves to the dollar based on the time value of it. Now, what banking really is meant to be is two instrument collateral, because when you end up holding too much gold, you have this problem with security. You have a problem with security. So first of all, you didn't need banking to really invent the idea of like specie money. Does that make sense? And specie, this is again $1 equals X, Y, gold or silver. If that makes sense. So what was banking originally doing? Banking was taking specie, taking gold, and let's put it this way. The way that the Knights Templar did it is when pilgrims from Europe wanted to go to a pilgrimage to Jerusalem, they what they wouldn't do is they wouldn't travel with a bunch of gold. So the Knights Templar, they could effectively had depositoriums throughout Europe. You could bring your gold there, and they would issue you a what? They would issue a banknote. They would issue you a certificate of deposit, basically. Meaning, okay, this guy, he's walking around with, a bunch of papers in his pocket, but according to everyone else, he doesn't look like somebody who's laden with gold to somebody who's potentially a highway robber. Hope that makes sense to you guys. So literally the entire idea of banking comes from like the idea of having a vault or having some sort of custodial arrangement where people are arguably depositing money with you. By money, I mean like hard money, and you're issuing them soft money, which is the banknote. Yeah. You know, I don't know if that AI answer works. Yeah, it's like I get it, but what they're doing there is a check is being used as okay. So we looked up what a search engine would say about two-instrument banking, and the language around this is a bit obscure, which is why I sometimes think about how am I supposed to teach this again to people on the internet, because it's taking these ideas and making them condensable is a bit difficult, but I do my best. So here, the internet, at least the AI, believes two-instrument banking is talking about the fact that you have checks and then the fact that you also have drafts. Does that make sense? And then literally, I think honestly a demand draft is more like ACH or like a subscription draft. Does that make sense? Like it's something that is a debit. But what a check is, arguably, a check is the same concept where instead of you being depositing gold, you would deposit cash, and then they would give you a check, which you could in fact use as like a redemption certificate for the underlying cash. So it's the concept of creating instruments in the first place. Like, okay, we can create something else that represents something of value underlying that backs it. And this is important to understand because when we get back to one instrument banking, which by the way, this also does involve things like Bitcoin, it's not necessarily clear right away what backs it, right? And like it's not necessarily a commodity. You have to understand that it's backed by an activity, which is why if this is not your first time listening to me, you've probably heard me describe it as a credit system. But anyways, two instruments, meaning that like, okay, you have gold or you have gold coins or some sort of like value in reserves, and you get issued a banknote, which is like a certificate of deposit, because it's way easier for you to walk around with that, especially if it's for, like for instance, for a check, especially if it needs like a signature or some sort of authorization for it to get accessed. Does that make sense to everybody? Fantastic. Fantastic. Okay. So I think that when Satoshi was building Bitcoin, he didn't really like understand that it would kind of be volatile. I think maybe he did, but he definitely considered like a whole bunch of things like the halvening and the difficulty curve and things like that. I think he definitely did understand that there would always need to be these compensation structures to kind of like balance the scale. And Bitcoin's chain kind of provides this into its infrastructure, because when you have things like difficulty, you have this system that's always willing to counterweight what's happening. Again, counterweight is the idea here. So like Bitcoin has the idea of a terazu in it, especially at least in the mining game. Like the more people mining, the higher the difficulty becomes. This is done as a counterweight to kind of protect the value of the issued Bitcoin. It makes it harder to get the Bitcoin, which then ends up creating, like, I guess more proof of work, at least as far as how the humans value it. Anyways, yeah, I'm very AI's capability to actually like answer questions a little bit different, and arguably, I think AI would consider this like traditional banking or like historic banking or something like that, because I don't think people that work in modern banking today feel like they're not working in banking. I think they're working in synthetic banking, and they're completely fine with that because during their lifetime they haven't seen it any different way. But yeah, like again, like why is there something that's kind of like stabilizing it? It's like what's on the other side of the scale. So when you have this fiat system, I want you guys to understand that the fiatness is not the entirety of the dollar's value. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? So the majority of the dollar's value is actually what you can trade it for. So like you can take a dollar in the United States and buy food, clothes, shelter, electricity, utilities, entertainment, you name it, right? All goods and services, effectively. Anything that's for sale is for sale for the dollar. That is where most of the dollar's value comes from. That's where most of it comes from. The fiatness of the dollar is really kind of like a safety belt inside its value, because at the end of the day, there is always somebody who's always willing to take it, and that's the United States government. Does that make sense? And their ability to back the dollar with their ability to enforce laws and collect taxes in it and what have you, that is kind of where like it's, I guess you could consider that it's trace value, something like that. Like that's kind of like it's well, yeah, see, you're not wrong there, yeah. Because the fact that Bitcoin is another thing that you can trade fiat for does in fact help the dollar in its own way. Now, does that necessarily mean it's going to offset the inflation of the dollar? No, but like honestly, you know, what I would argue is that the inflation of the dollar is useful for Bitcoin because it makes Bitcoin's price look larger. Anyways, so Bitcoin was not really kind of conceived of as a banking system. It was meant to be a payment system, but if you know if you've heard of platforms like PayPal or Venmo or Zelle or things like that, all like payment services or Stripe or whatever, they're really just like financial institutions themselves. They're just engaging in banking. You know, things like having a mobile app that works as a gift card. Any company that's doing something like that, I think Starbucks is one that's popular. They're also engaging in banking. What's interesting is that Starbucks' system of effectively allowing you to provide cash onto their app, I think that they accept a minimum of like $25 at a time. I haven't used this app, by the way, so if I got that wrong, I apologize. They now can basically, the money that you have on your app is now kind of consolidated into a fund that they lend with. Yeah, they lend money to banks based on their ability to effectively get a whole bunch of people to load a gift card up. And arguably, they're able to lend with, I would say pretty consistently, because to everybody who's holding balances on their Starbucks mobile app, all that money, it's not so much that it's backed with a dollar, it's backed with Starbucks coffee. Like it's backed with Starbucks products. So like the Starbucks mobile app system is arguably like a more, like it's a very sound system of banking in its own way, because like they will never not accept their gift cards. You know what I mean? Like their willingness to accept that is kind of what provides confidence in it. It's like they're the guarantor of last resort. Do you guys know what I mean? Like the last resort acceptor. The reason when you see like certain currencies crash is because the confidence in accepting it goes to the fucking floor. So in countries like Venezuela or Zimbabwe or places that experience hyperinflation scenarios, the confidence in the currency gets so low that merchants and vendors will no longer accept it. I know that might be unthinkable to most you. I have no idea where you guys live, but to a lot of places where you guys live, that might be unthinkable, where all the paper money you have, you couldn't go, like the money you have in the bank, you couldn't go buy things with it because nobody wants to sell you anything for it. You would then have to go find somebody to give you gold or something, and they end up resorting to the barter system. So you end up like creating this new derivative system that actually has confidence to become a medium of exchange, basically. Yeah, I know that's a nightmare scenario. Hopefully you never have to see it, but it is what it is. What's fucked up about it is that is also kind of like stampede behavior, because once like large movers, enough people stop accepting confidence in it, everybody else just chases the trend. Everybody else gets bearish as well if they hear that more and more people are not accepting it. When inflation happens, this is also effectively the byproduct of a bunch of people losing confidence and accepting that currency. Does that make sense to you guys? So when the dollar's value goes down, I want you to understand, it's just that people people's confidence in the dollar is lower. Therefore, they want more of it to do the same thing that they used to do 5 years ago. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, Weimar Republic. Yeah, Weimar Republic. For those of you who know that piece of history, also had an inflation scenario. Yes, that by the way, that inflation scenario was arguably what Adolf Hitler campaigned on, if you guys aren't aware, on top of a bunch of other things. But yeah, I hope that makes sense. You know, Zero Kex, you're joking, but you're not wrong. Yeah. You know why? Because literally, you know, caffeine, for those of you who don't know, caffeine is a nootropic. It's the most widely consumed drug in the world. And all that caffeine does is it blocks your adenosine receptors. So it makes it harder for your brain to feel tired. So therefore, caffeine literally just allows like a human brain to get a little bit more energy out of it, right? It doesn't necessarily like create new energy, but it tricks your brain into feeling it's more energized. And therefore, through the time value access to energy, that's where it gets its value from. That's literally what it is, right? If coffee really didn't have caffeine, you wouldn't have this culture of coffee drinkers, right? Does that make sense? You wouldn't be like, oh, you know what? Actually, we are gonna drink this all the time, and yeah, no, it's, you know, it tastes the way it does, and we just do this for habit. Anything that isn't like immediately delicious, like alcohol or whatever, you better believe that it has a neurochemical effect, right? Like there has to be a reason that people would want to drink it, right? Like, I mean, I've had pretty good tasting beers before, but like you acquire that taste for sure. And what definitely helps you acquire the taste for beer is the effect of alcohol. And coffee is the same way. See, that's exactly the point. Yeah, it's not for the flavor. Sorry. C says the Costa dominates the UK market here. I think their coffee tastes like shit, but they have the highest caffeine content. Yes, correct. Yep, that's why espresso is a thing. Yep, 100%. Literally, what they're doing for the human brain, it outweighs the cost. So, you know, therefore, like, okay, not only does coffee, I personally drink coffee black, but like, I'm also not drinking it for flavor. Most people, not most people, I have no idea what the stats are, but a lot of people add things like sugar and cream to their coffee, right? And it's just to enhance the taste of it because arguably they find black coffee not palatable. But the fact of the matter is that, you know, they still want to drink it because they need the caffeine. Yep. I hope this is making sense to everybody. Does anyone have any questions? So first of all, you know, shout out to Winter Horse for creating short form content. That was great. Yeah, phenomenal. I was blown away. I was so bullish after I saw that video. Bullish as fuck, you guys. Bullish as fuck. I will touch base on the stuff we're having for marketing. Okay, I'm actually going to talk about my marketing strategy here. So first of all, I want you guys to understand something, and this has to do with the Genesis, okay? The Genesis event, the point of this Genesis event was marketing. Does that make sense? And definitely the marketing meta for Web3 has completely shifted because like the amount of people who have faith, confidence in Genesis events now is extremely low. That shouldn't be too much of a surprise for me considering everything I just talked about, right? And people are now, they feel more bullish about like whatever they consider to be like the new next best thing in marketing, right? We're not going to end our Genesis. Our Genesis will remain in the state it's in. But the yes, thank you. That's the video. But the fact of the matter is that in order to really dominate in the marketing arena, we have to begin marketing this project as if it really is like the billion-dollar project it's meant to scale into. Would you guys agree? Now, in order to do that, I want to be clear. We need to create an omnipresence, or maybe the word I'm looking for here is ubiquitous. Ubiquity. And ubiquity means being everywhere. Does that make sense? So the fact of the matter is, we have been working on, first of all, you guys can see that we're now on camera. Do you guys notice that the PYRESWAP show is now on camera 6 days a week? Our production level is getting only better and better. Did you guys now see that we have green and purple cross-flooding me? Do you guys see that on the background? Do you guys see it? Are your jaws on the floor from this? Yeah. Thank you, Jeff. Yes, I'm also bullish on lights. Yes. Thank you. Yes. The production level's only getting higher. I literally have a sweatshop in my basement of children making me more blazers as we speak. Do you guys understand? Multiple children downstairs in the basement making blazers. Tailoring with their tiny fingers. Okay? Omnipresence is dangerous. Yes, Wake Sessions, 100%. Anyways, being everywhere. So the fact of the matter is, back in the day, which wasn't even that long ago, a Genesis event was the right way to just do the entirety of the marketing. You were going to have like a farm event, people were going to get incentives to deploy liquidity, everybody would be fucking happy, and people would either, jump in and jump out towards their own appetite, if that makes sense. Now, unfortunately, the meta has now shifted where the only thing that seems like it makes sense is meme coin projects, right? Do you guys remember this? Have you guys heard of meme coin projects? You guys have heard of meme coin projects. Now, the fact of the matter is, there are projects I'm seeing that are getting good marketing that aren't meme coins. But the fact of the matter is, generally speaking, when it comes to the effect of marketing, people can't just learn about something once and then be convinced to enter the consideration stage, if that makes sense. So we have two things that we're building, right? We're building a content factory and a marketing factory. Now, in order to make these things happening at the same time, we want content related to PYRESWAP generated constantly, and then the fact that we have a marketing factory, that this content is getting repurposed. Well, first of all, the content gets repurposed, but then that content getting repurposed does marketing, but then the fact of the matter is the marketing becomes content and the content becomes marketing. Does that make sense? We're kind of trying to create this like reciprocal system, if that makes sense, where we're generating content incessantly, but that we also have marketing happening external to us that we end up getting to repurpose for content or repurpose for marketing. Does that make sense? Symbiotic indeed, or honestly kind of like an intergame. Same concept, kind of like an intergame. Because I want you guys to know something pertaining to PYRESWAP so far. I am very capable of doing a lot with a little. Does that make sense? Like, I am very capable of doing that. The fact of the matter is, though, is that there is a limit to that. There's a limit to how much one person can do. And like the fact of the matter is that this PYRESWAP show could not be brought to you with this level of production if it was just one person doing it. Does that make sense? The same way that this just takes more effort than one person's willing to produce, all of the other platforms, whether they be Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or subreddits or Bitcoin Talk, they require the contributions of more people. I appreciate everybody who's able to contribute a spoonful here and there, for sure. Like, it's definitely more than zero. But the fact of the matter is that the getting these things set up to be like a real factory takes more time than maybe you guys understand. But when it finally gets set up, it really starts becoming amazing. I hope that makes sense to you guys. In order for us to catalyze the goal of reaching the user base minimum, we effectively need to be getting users at a faster rate. Does that make sense? And that just requires us to build things and organize things in a way that these sort of processes become automatic, that I don't need to be manually doing as much. I hope that makes sense to you guys. Do you guys get it? Like, the major hangups so far is that I'm manually doing way too much, right? But yeah, we're adding a bunch of people to the troop because of this, and we'll have a lot more active manpower in these tiny contributions. But these tiny contributions will pile up, and it'll be from this pile up of small things that we end up having this ubiquity, this omnipresence that effectively does begin to convert. Again, all social media, and then even real life stuff like billboards and stickers. Yeah, thank you. Indeed, zero. Yeah, exactly. Because again, okay, I wanted to be clear, you guys. Like, people think that like some sort of large event, like, okay, large effects do not necessarily come from large causes. Does that make sense? So I know a lot of you are thinking that we need to get tweeted by fucking Anthony Pompliano or somebody like that, like Michael Saylor. Like what we need is we need somebody to do something explosive, and like that's not it. Yeah, that's not it. We need to do so many things in the short term. Is my audio at least good? Okay, I'm gonna keep talking. There's so many tiny things that need to be happening with frequency and consistency. Does that make sense? And the fact of the matter is all of these things need my oversight to get them positioned and I guess you could say happening regularly so that we can cause this large effect. Because I know what everybody wants, centrifugality, maybe. Yeah, not only that, zero keks, but it's almost like boiling water. Again, we need tons and tons of small water molecules first getting excited so that they can bump into other small water molecules, because the more bumping that's happening between the molecules, the faster and faster the rate will be, because this becomes an exponential rate of growth. Does that make sense? I want you guys to understand something. When Bitcoin went 10,000% for the first time, there wasn't anything about it on any news. Does that make sense? Like Bitcoin was up thousands of percent, like before anybody was covering it on anything that wasn't Bitcoin talk. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Like, why? It was a bunch of small things happening, like small transactions taking place, like people mining it back when it was $30. Does that make sense to you guys? I want you guys to know something. It's not going to take us as long as it took Bitcoin. But the fact of the matter is, if you guys all understand that this is a project that can be scaled to multiple billions of dollars, first of all, I'm very honored that you're that bullish on me, but it now has to become more than just me. Does that make sense? Do you guys get it? It's not just me, a handful of devs, and like a few people who help out here and there. That will not scale to $1 billion. Right? Especially not. Well done, Cynical. Yeah. Allegorically, see, I don't disagree. Yeah. No. See, I understand what you're saying there. Like small movement builds momentum. 100%. I literally was in a development meeting earlier today, and they talked about like it was like there are a couple of things that we could be announcing more. And I need you guys to understand something. Everything from me writing an announcement to me having to rephrase dev speak into language that is palatable to the user base, that's digestible, and then routing that everywhere. This is all time that I can know that I have to pull from something else in order to make happen. I think that a lot of people with your ideas, you're continuing to not think that it's like, okay, I think that you guys don't think that we have like all of the time for like the rest of the month and then some like booked as shit. And then you guys offer an idea and it's like, that's great. When I finally am allowed to sleep more than 6 hours in December or something like that, we'll be sure to implement that if we don't already have it on the list. But like, just me spending the time to show everything you on the list doesn't help move the needle as well. Does that make sense? Like if you're already listening to me, your comfort is only going to increase from me doing the work, not from me telling you that I'm doing the work, right? Because for me to tell you to do the work, for me that I'm telling you to do the work is taking time for me doing the work. Like there needs to be more people's time implemented in this. That's what we're working on now. That right there is a time, that right there uses time. Yeah. But yeah, overall, yeah, like, I'm going to die before I quit. I'll die before I fail. I'm definitely had more tenacity than everybody watching me combined, to be clear. Yeah, like none of you have it. Yeah. Bloody fingers. Would you guys do this with bloody fingers? Yeah. How much debt would you guys go in? Probably not. Yeah, don't worry about that. Anyways, I hope that makes sense. Maybe one day I will write a list of everything I sacrificed to make this work. But you guys wouldn't give a shit either way. Anyways, do you guys have any questions? Literally, this project worked as early as February 10th. The whole system was already solved as early as the official open beta, but it wasn't moving fast enough, right? If you're upset about price downtrend, we have reduced the emission rate so that the price downtrend tapers. This will make it easier for the price to uptrend because everybody's just going to visually analyze the chart anyway. Yeah. We're not going to stop the Genesis. Because arguably we are a DEX and we do need liquidity. Yeah. Hope that makes sense. We literally have, I guess you could say, contingency beyond contingency of like what we can do to make happen. And, but yeah, like literally, the fact of the matter is, here were the major problems. First, I believe that we had enough people in Discord to not need marketing. Do you guys remember that? As early as December of 2022? Like, we don't really need marketing. I have 9,000 people in Discords. But now nobody cares about learning in Discords, right? Now they all care from learning in Twitter. Then I thought we could market by doing a Genesis event and just having like 4 larger YouTubers cover us, right? And that used to be what it took. But the meta shifted, and I was still trying to do too little to get my project off the ground, when really, it's not my goal to get my project off the ground, right? It's my goal to have this project dominate and just crush everything in its path. Does that make sense? Like, it's not just about like flying a kite. It's about like flying an SR-71 bomber. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Right? We're not flying a kite here, right? We're building a goddamn Zeppelin the size of the fucking moon. Do you guys understand me? We're building the fucking Death Star. All right? Do you guys get what I'm saying? So like, I think that I had like a fucking kite approach before, but yeah, no. Now we're gonna have a Death Star approach. Does that make sense? Like literally, no one's beating us. Oh yeah, but we didn't do spooky. Yeah, we didn't do spooky. Yeah, like we're Pega. Yeah, PYRESWAP endgame. Yeah, legitimately that. We didn't do that yet because again, okay, I'll tell you guys something else. I will say this on this stream. I wasn't gonna say this yet. Okay, do you guys know about a chain called Phantom Opera? Have you guys heard of this? Can I get some response if you guys have heard of this before? Thank you. Have you guys heard of it? Okay, a lot of people are pretending they forgot about this. Does that make sense? Okay. And when I mean a lot of people, I'm saying that there's Twitter accounts that used to be Phantom focused and they're no longer Phantom focused anymore. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? And the word I came up with, there's a word I came up with. I'm going to tell you guys a word I came up with. Stat Blaster. Can you guys see that? Let me angle it so maybe the glare is a little better. Perfect. Okay. Do you guys see this as Stat Blaster? Finger guns? Yeah. Hell yeah. Okay. Can you guys guess what a Stat Blaster is on Twitter? Do you guys know what I mean? By the way, this is officially a trademark. I'm kidding. But like, this is the name I'm going to call them now for like this general idea, because you guys all know what these are. These are Twitter accounts that blast leaderboards, data visuals, or things like that pertaining to a certain project, ecosystem, you fucking name it. Wake sessions, I mean, there are stat blasters that specifically look at like 24-hour gain. So yeah, you're not wrong. You guys are not wrong. Does that make sense? Like percentage gain, like 5-minute gain blasters, they're out there. Yeah, alpha regurgitators, not a terrible way to describe it. But do you guys get what I'm saying? Do you guys remember we literally were ranked on the top 10 TVL gainers for Binance Smart Chain, I think last week? Did you guys see that? The majority of that reason, by the way, was us moving the D-Share farm liquidity. Just so you guys know, we moved D-Share farm liquidity and they're like, hey, PYRESWAP is up 40% TVL. Does that make sense? So right now, the developers, during this marketing phase, I'm spending less and less time with them, but I said, hey, do you know what you guys can develop now that we can actually use kind of like as an auxiliary? Stat Blaster accounts. So literally, we're talking about Twitter platforms that effectively automatically generate content, and effectively, they're not PYRESWAP focused, but they're platforms that we can allow to create more exposure for PYRESWAP coming from different directions. Does that make sense to you guys? So literally, the developers right now are building Phantom Stat Blaster accounts. Do you guys know why? Because all of the Phantom Stat Blaster accounts became Sonic Stat Blaster accounts. So now there's an opening in the market for new Phantom Stat Blasters. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Once we get these kind of dialed in on Phantom, we can just kind of like clone them onto Avalanche, Binance Smart Chain, whatever other chains we end up on. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? And these are things that they take time to build, but then when they're set up, they're just automatically generating content and doing marketing. Does that make sense to you guys? And that's what the devs are working on. That's not even what I'm working on. Does that make sense? But you guys get it? Like literally, it's about ubiquitousness, right? It's about like getting a whole bunch of stuff from a whole bunch of different directions. And it does just start off with like small things at first. Yeah, like again, you want like a large effect. Bitcoin didn't have that. Yeah, like this is not a project where we really even have a contemporary, right? So it's not like we can necessarily copy from somebody else's playbook. There's definitely stuff that works, and there's definitely stuff that doesn't work. Stuff that does work is like posting on Twitter 18 times a day. Now, I don't have the time to post on Twitter 18 times a day. So I effectively need to recruit help for that. I don't have the time to literally turn all this content that we make into the PYRESWAP show into short form to blast on TikTok and Instagram Shorts, or like Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, and then YouTube Shorts. Does that make sense? So literally, I need to spend the time organizing, selecting, positioning, training. Does that make sense? Until we systemize it, and then it becomes something that becomes a fucking factory process. Because I don't know if you guys know this, the PYRESWAP show is like, it's getting very impressive. I'll just be honest with you. Yeah, like, I don't know. Wake sessions, no, we're even bigger than Make.com at this point. Like, Make.com, we're using it for, like, routing our Discord announcements, a Telegram, whatever. But, like, yeah, no, Wake, we're using straight up we're just going to use teamwork at this point. Yeah, we're just going to use teamwork. Yeah, and Make.com does take a lot of fucking time. But, like, honestly, like, when you can just have more people on your team, because, by the way, I know you guys think this is a fucking technology industry, and it is, but do you know what technology is about? It's about people. And, I'm not trying to diminish my ability to work, because I think I can definitely outwork everybody, but, at least on this, for sure. But, you know what would it make even more sense if I just had more people working with me, right? So, sometimes that takes a lot of arm twisting. I think that other people think that I make a lot more money doing this than I do, but I don't. I actually lose way more money than every single one of you watching this. Yeah, because I have to continue investing into growing the project, and nobody else does. They just invest in the project, right? I'm not in the top 20 GPSE whales, by the way. Yeah, me personally, I'm not in the top 20. Well, Wake, fantastic. Wake, you can DM me after this because there is some stuff that you could contribute to. And it's stuff that we have everybody in the circus trying to... It's like a 15-minute daily contribution. I'll go into that later. Yeah, it's like it's something small, but like again, a lot of people with making a small contribution can turn to something explosively large. Anyways, shout out to the people that are playing the Incarnation Witch Vault. By the way, you guys, we will likely increase the gratuity from 3% to 5%. I think that'll happen in the next 24 hours or so. Do you guys know what the gratuity is? Do I look more professional within the pocket or in the... Oh, who cares? I don't even know what that means, ZeroCax, but yes. Yeah. Thank you, C. Yeah, okay, well, on different days. We'll create paywalled content where I wear it in this shirt, okay? On OnlyFans, all right? Honestly, you're not required to be pornography on OnlyFans, And I have thought that it would be super hilarious to do like, you know, a tokenomics or economics course and just, you know, subscription based on OnlyFans. Why? It's video content, right? You know? There you go. Anyways, yeah. I want you guys to understand, like, it's gonna blow the fuck up. Like, we're gonna put stickers everywhere. We're gonna put stickers in goddamn... We're putting stickers on fucking Wall Street. Did you guys know we're putting stickers on Wall Street? Yeah. We will have literally QR stickers with the pixelated flame in Wall Street, New York City. Does that make sense? I think 50 to 100 there. Not only that, but we're literally gonna have these stickers all photographed. Does that make sense? And then they're all gonna get retweeted. Do you know what I mean? This is all about content repurposing. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Like, it's one thing to put stickers everywhere on Wall Street, but then it's another thing to take a picture of these 50 to 100 stickers, and then literally we turn them into Twitter content in a queue that gets tweeted later. Does that make sense? Because it gives the Twitter account something to fucking blast. And since these are all like real life promotion, a Twitter account showing you an ad for PYRESWAP in real life, in marketing consideration for Web3, this is a two-source confirmation. Does that make sense? Because it's not just a Twitter account talking about how great its project is. Rather, it's a Twitter account showing you another ad in another place. Does that make sense? It's showing you, like, think about like how the user interprets this. Does that make sense? It's not just like, oh, hey, this is a fucking another Web3 project that exists on a website, but rather, hey, this is a Web3 project, and also they have stickers all over Wall Street. Do you guys get what I'm saying? We're also going to do Austin, Texas, possibly some other cities. I feel super fucking bullish today. I hope you guys do too. I know that you guys occasionally have your moods swing with the market. But yeah, like we're all going to make it. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, if you're sad about the chart right now, I would fucking hodl. Yeah, like you'll be glad you did. Like, I'm not selling at these fucking prices. Are you fucking crazy? Yeah. Yeah, like even I can't say to know that kind of turnaround. Fine. C. Okay, from C. Fine. I worry you have trauma associated with people not understanding you. You're correct. Yeah, definitely like 2022. Like literally it was like it was more like the, you know, if you heard of like the boy crying wolf and then like nobody cared. Do you know what I mean? Because like the stuff that I was talking about in 2022 is the same shit I'm talking about now. Does that make sense? And then I realized that what I thought was fucking elementary was just apparently like rocket science to people. Because it is like at an intuitive level for me. Again, you know, we can talk about that today too, why the hell not? When we talk about like the economics or the tokenomics of a fucking tomb fork, we have two problems, right? Like tomb forks fail. Fail because. Who knows the two reasons? There's two reasons. Well, see, I ended up having to become that leader myself. Well, Jeff, you're correct, but rather it's the TU is the fucking application to this problem. Yeah, but actually there's two fundamental reasons. Oh, you heard it from me? You're not wrong, see? Yeah, you're not wrong. Supply too high, demand too low. Do you guys know what we're talking about here? For the peg coin, specifically for the peg coin. We're talking about peg coin, by the way, yeah. Peg token. So therefore, Yeah, the coin is a shit coin. Yeah, exactly what I wrote before. The peg coin is oversupplied. The peg coin is a shit coin. Therefore, to fix it, make the peg coin not oversupplied. Make the peg coin not a shit coin. That's it. That's it. In order to do that, you have to create something called terminal utility, which is arguably stuff that already existed in Web3. Again, Phantom has this, Avalanche has this, fucking Ethereum has this. Yeah. Literally, I think that nobody else understood that you can do this in a dApp as well. Like, what blows my mind is that they do this stuff deliberately on these chains, but nobody cares about the tokenomics of chains for whatever fucking reason. Peg token supply too high, peg token demand too low. So literally, like, create a demand for the peg token that simultaneously reduces supply. Decrease supply, increase demand. So therefore, you have to build something that is capable of doing this. Now, the meeting utility was not the first terminal utility I invented. Rather, I created this one because I had like 7 or 8 or 9 tomb forks I had to fix at the exact same time. So I'm like, okay, what the fuck can work for like 9 tomb forks at the same time? So I picked it like this. Like, I knew that like my developers at this point were already volunteers. Does that make sense? I'm like, okay, what can I build that solves this problem with as few moving parts as possible? You know, see, thank you, I guess, yeah. Where is between the nose and the eyes? Like on my cheekbone? Oh, like this? Yeah, I don't even know if that helps. I think it might just